When there's chemistry, then the looks don't matter. When there is passion, the looks don't matter. Why? Because there's a deep connection. So I think if you're focused only on the looks, and if you're building a marriage based on he's paying the bills, he's taking care of me, I'm looking good, and that's the agreement, eventually a lot of things could happen. He could go broke, and then you're gonna leave him. She could get fat, and then you're gonna leave her. Right? So if that's all you have in that relationship, then she's gonna fail.
This is Villacis.
And this is Raul Villacis.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the God, Money, and Sex podcast. My name is Villacis.
And I'm Raul Villacis, and this is the first podcast of 2024. And we got the new studio.
Yay!
Love it, love it. You look amazing. You look amazing. So welcome. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure you subscribe, make sure that you comment, let us know where you're watching us from. And I'm excited for this topic because I think we get a lot of questions, we get a lot of emails, a lot of texts, people asking us, what's the secret of staying married? What's the secret of a long-term relationship? We're going to have 25 years coming up this year. You looking forward for your party?
That's right. I think that's one of the things that keeps, at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of sense of resolutions and what do you want to do and where are you going to go? But for us, I think, or I'll speak for myself, for a long time now, it's been okay, what is it who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? So for me, this year, it has a lot of beautiful parts of celebration. My dad is turning 80 years old. We are having our 25th anniversary. So when I have that big picture, it kind of just, okay, who do I want to be? How do I need to show up for this new year? And it's giving me this new sense of celebration.
I think that's the key part of when people start looking forward to the year is they want to celebrate a new beginning. Mm-hmm. They want to celebrate a new commitment, New Year's resolution, right?
That's right.
I've been doing this for the past 10 years, living my life 100 days at a time. So I actually get to have this feeling of a New Year's resolution every 100 days.
That's
so
awesome.
This is my a third New Year's resolution for the year. And that's how what we teach at the Edge program is compounding time. Can you do more in 100 days than the average man does in a year?
That's right.
So part of what we do is really set a certain standard that we want to become better than we were last year. And every single year we get better and better. So what's your word for 2024?
Well, my first word was discipline because when I meditated on that, it's I need a lot of discipline to get things done. There's a lot of things, some massive changes that I need to make that I want to see forth. And it was discipline. But then the more that we started to talk about was that word standard. Because I think, I could have the discipline, but if I don't have the standards, if I lower my standards, I can't get to the discipline.
So you stole my word.
I think we could share it. We could share
it. We could share the word. All right. So because you're right, my first word was effortless. Effortless. I wanted to have an effortless year. We put a lot of work into the last 10 years. We put a strong foundation, but what came through is standard. Effortless way of raising your standard.
So if you have a high standard for yourself, then I think things become effortless.
That's exactly when I started meditating on it. I realized that when you have a certain standard, things happen easier as if you have a lower standard and you constantly pushing and pushing and pushing instead of attracting those things into your life.
That's how it was for me too. When I started to see my word, it's the word itself, I think it shows me where I want to go. And when I don't feel like showing up, then it's okay, where's my discipline? Where do I go back into my action plan? But then if I don't have that standard, I have lowered it, it's not going to go anywhere.
And it comes down to everything, a standard for your health, a standard for your business, a standard for your connection with God, a standard for your relationships. And
that's right.
And that's why this year I want to make sure that I continue to push myself and push the people around me, push the kids, push you, push the team, and raising the standards for 2024.
Yes.
And the mantra is failure is not an option. 2024 is here. We know it's going to be a big year. It's an election year. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about. It's not going to be a shortage of content. And if you're watching this, I want to just inspire you to help you see that it's never too late for you to work on yourself. It's never too late for you to work in your marriage. It's never for you too late to work in your business. It's never too late to be a content creator. I'm excited for this season because I think this is the best time to be a content creator. There's so many things, so much opportunity, so many topics, and I think if one thing that you get from us is that we're not going to stop. failure is not an option. We're going to continue to push through. We're going to continue to level up, raising the standards. We'll move into this beautiful facility, a brand new studio that we have, and we want to continue to deliver to you value content. So, with that said, let's talk about today's topic. So,
I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that either, because you're talking about like the standards of beauty, like, does it matter?
So I always give messages saying, of course, Raul, you're happy because your wife is beautiful. Your wife.
Why? Thank you.
If I was married to a woman like you're married, I'd be happy too, right? And
Well,
I get
that's not necessarily true, because a lot of people are married. At least we know, we go through a lot of relationships, right? Like, we see a lot of couples, and there's some women that are absolutely stunning from head to toe. And it doesn't really matter what's on the outside, because on the inside, sometimes it doesn't match. So the outside does not match what's happening on the inside, and you have a shitty marriage or a shitty relationship because of the inside of what's happening.
That's the question, right? Do looks matter after 10, 20, 25 years in a marriage?
Do
like,
looks
do looks
matter?
Like, do you care what I look like? Do I care what you look like after a certain amount of years being married? Is that something that we value? So I want to bring out a video. I want to share this video. That's where the topic came from, because I got a question from somebody that sent me a message, and then I started doing some research to see, how couples, what psychologists say. So let's take a look at this psychologist that talks about how women and men look at looks after a certain time. So Daniel, can you share that video?
Will
Can you post
exist
it?
forever. Your looks is the only depreciating asset you have.
Wow.
So why would you want to derive your value from it and your self-esteem from it? We know it's depreciating.
Because what happens when the looks start to fade in women who've only put their value in their physical appearance? What happens?
Well, what happens is they end up with men who are equally shallow. Here's the thing, if I'm just a pretty face, I'm going to end up with a man who only likes pretty faces. Now, the reality is that man is so easily distracted with the next pretty face and the next 25-year-old and the next. So what will happen is you're in a constant competition with people you can't compete with for the rest of your life. And similarly, if I was somebody who just sold sex and I'm going to find a man who's addicted to sex. And men that are addicted to sex will always want novelty. You'll never be enough. So reality is, when you create your identity on something so fragile, you attract somebody who's also very fragile, and then you end up in a lonely cycle, unfortunately. Yeah. Whereas when you develop something deep, you attract someone deeper, and your connection tends to be more long-lasting, God willing. It tends to be more long-lasting.
Right. I think I heard you share recently online something about.
Okay, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Daniel. That's
Financial
it. So
connection and
I think
emotional.
that's a great insight on how you attract into your life whatever you focus on. So if you're focusing only on your appearance, if you're focusing only, for women is the way you look. For men is our business, right? So as we get older, does that matter, right? So what's your take on that, on the looks for women? I'll give my take on it as well.
Okay, so the reason why it's a little bit of like a challenge. I wouldn't say a challenge, but yeah, it's a challenge, right? Like, because there's parts of me that always want to look beautiful, that I'm worried about what my face looks like, my skin and my body, and I want to be healthy and I want to do all these things. So it's like, you need that, because I think for me, like, it gets you to this place of like, well, if my body is my temple and I know that I have to take care of it, there needs to be some sense of vanity attached to it. But if you only focus on what you look like on the outside and not worried about what's coming into the inside, then there's this disconnect, a misalignment, right? So for a long time, I know, like, I focused just on the outside adornment of what I look like. So focused on my hair, so focused on my teeth, on my skin. And then I remember when I got sick after COVID, I had this liver issues. And I got all this like dark spots on my skin. And for me, it was like, wow, that was like such a punch in the face, because it's like, well, everything that I knew, everything that what I said about my face and what I look like, or people are going to be looking at me and that's all they're going to see, really gave me this discernment of like, well, Vivian, you're just not your looks. You're more than that. So I think God really humbled me. And it's like, well, I have some dark spots because of my liver and I had issues. And thank God that I got through it. And thank God that I'm healthy, that I know I have to eat certain things or not eat certain things. And I'm okay with that. So again, like that battle of knowing like, how much do I need to pay attention to that? And how little do I need to pay attention to that and put that energy to something else?
It comes down to what you value, right? Do you value looking good or being healthy, right? Do you value connection or you value just having sex, right? The podcast has got money and sex. I mean, if you only have God and you don't have sex, you have a sexless marriage, eventually something's gonna happen, right? And if you have God and you have sex and you don't have the money, eventually you're not gonna be happy in marriage. So you need to have all of it. You need to have a deep connection. You need to have the ability to connect with sex. And you also have to have a provider. You have to provide. So from a man's perspective, looks do matter to a certain point. I look back at, I think it was Cat Williams who was a comedian. He said in his bit, he said like women they just think too much about their appearance. They realize that we're men, when we want to have sex, like doesn't matter about your stretch marks. If you have stretch marks, you were big and you got skinny, or you got skinny and you got big. Either way, we're doing something tonight. We don't care that your panties are not matching. You're gonna take it off anyways, right? Or your toes are not painted. So that to me, like we could relate, because when there's chemistry, then the looks don't matter. When there is passion, the looks don't matter. Why? Because there's a deep connection. So I think if you're focused only on the looks, and if you're building a marriage based on he's paying the bills, he's taking care of me, I'm looking good, and that's the agreement, eventually a lot of things could happen. He could go broke, and then you're gonna leave him. She could get fat, and then you're gonna leave her. Right? So if that's all you have in that relationship, eventually it's gonna fail. But if you have a deep connection, whether it's that she's your ride or die, whether like he is gonna be your king, and whether business goes up and down, you got each other's backs, then it's a whole different conversation. But the standard has to be you're taking care of yourself, not because you want to look good for me, you want to be healthy.
And I want to look good also for me, not just for you.
And that's the attractive part.
Yeah.
The attractive part is if you're not doing it for other people, you're doing it for you.
Right.
And if men are not attracted to, if men are only attracted to looks, and there's nothing deep enough to hold them connected to that relationship, eventually there's going to be another shiny object, a younger woman, a more beautiful woman that's going to take them out of their path.
Right.
And the marriage is going to fail.
I think, you just saying all that stuff, I think there's nothing more beautiful when I see like women owning themselves, and when they know who they are, there's so much beauty that shines through, and that beauty kind of turns into confidence. And I think like a lot of the times, women really don't know how beautiful they are and how beautiful they could be. And they forget that part, because every woman that I see, like now that I see a woman and I look at them, I'm like, seriously, there's no one ugly. Like God made everyone so perfect that even it's like the smallest thing, like you are beautiful. There's something beautiful about you. And if you don't feel beautiful,
the one thing that's more
okay.
is attractive is confidence.
It is.
Confidence. I used to have a friend in high school. This guy, if you say this guy was ugly, all right?
There was no one
ugly. It was ugly.
There's no one ugly.
And every time we go out to a club, this guy would pick up the best looking girl.
Prettiest girls.
And I'm like, why? What's the game here?
He knew how to dance.
He had confidence. He knew how to dance. He has swag.
Oh, there you go.
And that's confidence.
So and it's the same thing. And I think, now, I think, like for us moms, for us women that are like in their 40s, 50s, I think that's such a great thing to step into, because then we're also gifting that to our daughters. Because I see a lot of that with my daughter. It's like she sees me and she was like, oh my gosh, mom, like she always makes me like this photo albums, or she writes these little things. And one of the things that she always says to me, she's like, you're the most beautiful girl I know. You're the most confident mama I know. And then she's always looking at me and I'm like, girl, I have some big thighs. I have a big butt and I love it. And that's me, and she looks at me like, oh my gosh, mom, you're crazy. But I'm like, that's me. That's what I have. That's who I am. And I'm not going to shrink down for anyone or anything. I'm not going to fit into the mold of like, a Kim Kardashian to put bigger boobs or to have a bigger butt, even though like I already do. But like, you know what I mean? It's like now the way that the standards of beauty have been lowered, have been modified so much that we feel like we have to fit into that. And when we don't fit into it, then that's when we feel ugly.
And I think that in a relationship, when a man starts to have a deeper connection with his woman that goes beyond the physical aspect, like you're right, there is nothing more beautiful than having a woman who owns herself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you don't take care of yourself, that's also a reflection of how you feel.
That's right.
And if a women
So
don't
true.
take care of themselves, then they want their man to take care of them, or they want their man to pay attention to them. But you're not being your feminine self that's attracting the man to you. I had a conversation with a couple of my clients, and they been already coaching with me for a couple of years, and we were talking about the shift in the relationship, how their wives have shifted so much, and I asked him what changed. He's like, Raul, I got my balls back. Like I didn't lower my standard. I didn't accept it. Every time that she wanted to trigger me a certain way, I had a standard. I said, I'm not going to deal with it that way. I'm going to deal with it this way. So that became attractive. So his wife started to take care of herself, going to the gym, work out. And now they have a beautiful connection. Why? Because he worked on himself. He wasn't waiting for her to change. He focused on him so he could change. So if you're complaining about your wife not looking good, are you overweight? Are you a fat ass that's not going to the gym? Are you watching TV all day long? That you be the example for your partner to level up. Don't tell them if you should lose weight if you have to lose weight, or you should go to the gym if you're not going to the gym.
Yeah, and also like now that you say that, it just reminds me of a conversation that I had. It's also like us changing the frequency, right? Like of where we are. Because if we are in a relationship, and we're talking about long-term relationships, or even if you're like in a puppy relationship, puppy love, like when there is so much negative around, when there's like all this toxic energy around you in the relationship, whether it's like words or just gestures or things that are happening that are not right, how they're supposed to be in our relationship, you feed off of that. And that in itself, like just holds us down, carries us down. It's just like, it shows in our face.
Yeah.
It shows in our body, like how negative, how toxic those things are. Like it comes through. So of course you're not going to feel beautiful. Of course it's not going to show you beauty because there's no light. There's no flow through the body. So the minute that you let go of those things, whether it's with your spouse or whether it's with yourself, the way that you talk to yourself, the things that you're doing, and you have that shift of like, what nourishes me? Because I could put a lot of potions and lotions on my body, on my face, but if I don't feel that on the inside, nothing is going to change.
And one thing I will add to that is that if women, sometimes you beat yourselves down so much
Yes.
that you take it out on us because you feel a certain way and you think we
Right.
see you that way.
Right.
Like I've seen you without makeup, I've seen you without everything, and you still look beautiful to me.
Wait, what do I mean? Everything is just my makeup.
I've seen you with nothing. Okay.
Okay. All right. Because I know some people say like my hair is fake. It is not fake. It is all real.
But see, we see you in a certain manner, and a lot of times women want to look a certain way before they even engage in sex. Oh, I don't feel pretty enough, or I don't feel sexy enough. Well, take off your clothes and things are going to happen. like when you get in the bed and you take your clothes off, you don't have to feel like having sex. After a certain age, we said this before, like sometimes we don't feel like having sex. Sometimes like, oh, the kids are not home. All right, let's get busy. And then we're like, no, let's watch TV or let's do this. No,
Let's just cuddle.
let's do what we came here to do, right?
Let's sleep.
And it takes a while.
Just kidding.
But then afterwards, we finish always saying, wow, we needed this.
Of course.
We need this because
Connection,
sometimes we
sex.
have to get things going in order to get going. So it doesn't matter what you look
I
like.
agree.
If you're in a long-term relationship, just know, deepen the connection by having more conversations, by having more quality time, by having more even aspirations together as a couple. Now is the perfect time for you guys to discuss the vision for 2024. Now is the perfect time for you to say, okay, here's what I don't want to do that we did last year. Here's what I want to change about this year. And what can I do better? Don't expect your partner to be better. You be better.
All the
Get your
time.
fat ass out the couch and go to the gym.
Responsibility.
And again, when I say this, I'm talking to the men. All right, I'm not talking to women. Get your fat ass on the couch, go to the gym, work out, start reading more, and you'll see how your woman looks at you different. You see how you start acting different. You see how you start operating from a different level. That's my mantra for my team. I said we're having a daily huddle every morning. Everybody should already have a worked out meditation, daily ritual before we even have a meeting. That's a standard. That's a standard.
And I would say the same thing for the women. Like I know for us, it's sometimes it feels so complicated because we feel like everything else is a priority. Allow yourself to be the priority. Like feel like you are the priority in your own book, in your own calendar. And even if it's the one thing that you do, I always tell my queens, like, what is the one thing that you're going to do that has a ripple effect on everything else that you do? Whether it's meditation, like ask God to tell you, like, what does he say about beauty? Like you are a treasure. You're a gem that he created with his own hands. Like feel that. Whether it's, dancing, a lot of us women, like we stop dancing, moving our hips. So like all our emotions just stagnant in there. Whether it's singing, I know there's so many women nowadays, and even like people at church, like they're going to praise God, and it's so hard for them to like hear their voice because their voices have been silent for so long. So those little things are like things that you could do right away that it could actually release that energy, and you could start to see the woman that God created. And one of my mantras that I always tell the women is like, you were born to be a queen. And I know that's kind of like a big, do I really feel like a queen? But you were born to be that queen. And the queen doesn't have to be like something extravagant as the name says it, but it has to be something that you actually believe authentically, like what is the highest version of you. And that's your queen at this moment right now.
And that's attractive. That's right. So looks do matter after a certain point,
They do.
but they need to come from within.
Yes.
You need to, confidence is more attractive.
Agree.
Certainty is attractive. So when you start operating from that place, of course, you're going to look, you have a certain standard, you're going to look the part.
Yeah.
So if you want to change from the outside, you have to change from the inside first.
Yes.
And I love the way that you look from the inside and the way you look from the outside.
Oh, I
You're
love
amazing.
you.
I always tell you this.
I know you do.
So guys, if you're watching this video, just know that relationships are worth fighting for. God, money, and sex, that should be your mantra for this year. Make sure you get your money right. Make sure you have the sex conversation and you get away from having a sexless marriage. Have more sex this year and you see how your life changes. And most important, make sure that you have a deep connection with God, because God wants you to prosper. God wants you to be abundant. God wants you to succeed. This is the year that the king will rise and the queen will rise and you become a power couple. So thank you for watching this. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and following us in all social media platforms.
Yes.
We'll see you next time. Learn it,
Live it, experience it. Love life.
Love life.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take them to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.